Good afternoon. My name is Mark Schindel. I am CEO for Manor, the company behind ProStride APS. ProStride APS is a medical device supporting an all-natural, convenient, and clinically demonstrated option for joints. We've used it in horses and dogs accordingly. Today, I'm joined by an amazing group who represent Olympic athletes, professional riders and competitors, top-level instructors and mentors, and horse owners, who, working with their veterinarian caregivers, strive to provide the best care for their horses. Today's panel discussion will largely focus on the perspective and experience from each of these individuals with ProStride. We are also joined by the veterinarian who introduced ProStride and continues to provide care for their respective horses. So first off, let's do introductions from our panel. Anne?
Hi, I'm Ann Krasinski. I'm a show jumper. That's what I've done forever, I guess. Fortunate enough to have been on 5 Olympic teams and 3 world championship teams and jumped all over the world and have had great horses. And I still compete, but I teach a lot. I've been the chef de keep for some US developing teams and young rider teams. So love the sport and love the horses and love to give back. And I'm very thankful to be part of the ProStride team because, my life has been amazing because of the horses, and I love to give back to them. They're amazing animals. So I thank you for having me and my horses part of your team.
Thank you, Anne. Carol?
Hi, Dr. Carol Holland. Each member of this team is a client of mine, and I'm so privileged to work with each one of them in different ways and fortunate that they give their faith and trust to me. I was also fortunate enough to encounter ProStride about 6 years ago and worked with Mark to bring this product to everywhere that we can possibly bring it, like he mentioned dogs, but mostly horses. And the dog and small animal world is growing. But each member on this team has successfully used ProStride, which has been fantastic for their horses. And each member has also seen the great benefits that it brings to their horse. And what we also hope with that is longevity. Longevity for their horse member, because each of these horses, we start them young most of the time and then hope to get to at least maybe middle-aged, if not older horses, and keep them sound. So I think that's the largest benefit with ProStride that we've seen. And I'm hoping that each of them can tell you their own story, but I could talk about it all day. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, Kimberly.
Hi there. I am Kimberly Griffiths. I am an amateur/owner, probably much more an owner than amateur rider, but I am a mother of 2 teenage girls, actually young adults now, who have been riding for 12 years. And I have to say, I've been using the ProStride product since 2015 when Carol introduced it to me. At the time, we weren't, I would say it was on older horses, but since then, I use the product in my program 3 different ways, which we could probably discuss later. But as a mother of 2 riders now, an 18 and 20-year-old, my main concern in looking after their horses basically is to have the safest, happiest, healthiest, I guess most willing to do their job for my kids. And that's one of the reasons why ProStride is part of our program for them. So that's
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay.
And Maureen.
Hi, I'm Maureen Brennan. I am currently a polo player, which I started playing in 2002, formerly a show jumper, and Anne is my mentor, actually. I also have polo clubs. I teach polo school. I've been very competitive both in this country in traditional mixed polo with men as well as women's polo internationally, multiple countries. I've played and won successfully and have quite a large group of horses. Obviously, polo does bring numbers. So I've had a lot of experience actually with ProStride, and fortunately, Carol brought ProStride to my attention pretty much, I believe, was one of the first cases to use it, maybe the second. I believe you had a dressage person prior to me. So that was back in 2015, and have been a steady, loyal user ever since. So I appreciate being on this panel because I am always willing and trying to basically be a disciple and get the word out, because I think it's one of the best products we can use for our horses. As far as not just the safety of ourselves, but for their own longevity, well-being, and quite honestly, most often quick turnaround time, and so therefore lack of pain. So I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you, Maureen. And last but not least, Casey.
Hi, I'm Casey Perry Glass. I competed in one Olympic Games and at the 2018 World Equestrian Games. I also have done a couple World Cups and traveled to do some Nations Cups for Team USA. And I was introduced to ProStride about 5 years ago from Dr. Rick Mitchell, and we have been using the product ever since. Dr. Holland is my current vet, and it's our go-to. I really feel that I try to do everything for my horses towards the more natural way, and keeping them healthy and happy is like my main priority. And Dr. Holland does a great job with assisting in that with ProStride, and I'm very, very lucky and blessed to be on this team. And the results that we've gotten for my horses have been amazing in several different cases. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Thank you all, and great introductions. You're all very humble based on the accomplishments that I know each of you have done, so thank you. As we get into just the start of the questions, what I would like is maybe start with Anne. How were you first introduced to ProStride, and how long have you been using it for your horses? And appreciating some of you added that in the introductions.
Well, I think 4 years, maybe 5 years, but as Maureen said, it was really through Maureen. Maureen was a former show jumper with me. Now she's a top polo player, but that's how I got involved with Dr. Carol Holland, who is my current vet, who's an amazing vet and horsewoman. And so through these two wonderful horsewomen, it was pretty funny. Maureen was like, "Anne, you got to try this. You got to try this." And I've been around. I've been in the business a long time, so have tried all different things through the years. And I have to say, it was through Maureen and then Dr. Holland that was my introduction to ProStride. And the really so many things. I think the well-being of the horses, as Maureen said, the quick turnaround time. I have hunters and jumpers in my barn, and initially I think it was 100 that one of my partner Hoppy's hunters that we used it on, and that we had not been having a lot of success with. I think trying to get sound, and I think actually it was a ProStride event you were having is maybe where we started it. We through Maureen got invited and off we went, and so huge believers how that horse had helped tremendously. And to see that you don't have to use it all the time, like steroids at all. The joint improves itself. You can start riding them much more quickly. FEI, you can get in the ring faster. All of that, the testing part of it. But for the well-being of the horses, it's just been enormous, huge. Oh, and I don't know, for the whole sport and horses in general, it's amazing what you've done with this product. No kidding. And I'm thankful through Maureen to have gotten with Dr. Holland to use it. And so, yeah, all of our top horses for sure are getting it. And then really interesting, I have a student who graduated, Dr. Holland knows her, T here in New Jersey, who when she graduated from her college, she did a paper on ProStride, and it was pretty funny. So she's a huge, I mean, all of my clients use it now as well, but she met Dr. Holland, and then she's telling Dr. Holland about the ProStride because she just did a paper on it. So I was inundated with her research as well. So it's been fun. And the horses love it, it's fabulous. And same thing, that they feel better, they perform better, you just feel better about all of it.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer. And why don't we move a similar question for Kimberly on your experience, how you were introduced and how long you've been using it for your horses and any other detail.
Okay. As I said earlier, I've known Dr. Holland since 2012. I've been working with her that long. And we use both Eastern and Western medicine on my horses, and a lot of other supportive techniques, acupuncture, chiro, the magnetic blankets. But with regards to any joint care, we've been on ProStride since 2015. And the way I kind of use it, I've got a whole range of different age horses. So we sort of use it as kind of a preventative measure for the younger horses. I would say, Carol, you can correct me, but like 6 to 9, we use it preventatively. And then for the older horses, sort of 10 and up, we use it like maintenance. And then we use it as a repair product too. So if we have something like a torn tendon, we will inject and re-inject to give that area support. What else do we do? Yeah, so that's basically how I use it.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And Maureen.
Well, I think I started working with Carol back in 2010, and I'm a little unclear, time flies. So I had been working with Carol on my horses for a long time. Originally, we started together using the chiropractic and acupuncture treatments for my horses, and then began, all the regular vet work on the horses. So it had been several years I'd been working with Carol. So when she brought up this product, at the time it was this new therapy, I said, sure, absolutely. It was one of my, I want to say the mare was probably 10 years old or so. And that was in August. And flash forward, I was temporarily in Florida on my way to Houston for the Women's Open. And we did a lot of my horses. That was in very end of October. The Open was in 2 weeks later. Not only did we win the Open, but my string in Polo, it's called the string of horses. I got best string. So and we had done quite a few of the horses, and they never, like I said, was late October going into a tournament in early November. So that, again, that time frame is amazing for this product, that the horses can, more or less stay in work, not have any of that downtime. So I was a believer from that horse that we did in the summer, and then obviously winning the tournament, best string, everything, and then it kind of went uphill from there. So I've been, again, sort of one of the original users of it, and I could go on about all the different parts of the horse's body. I don't know if we should be getting into that part of the topic right now, but I really don't use anything else. With this knowledge now of what it does for the regenerative part for the horses, it's hard to use steroids anymore because of basically what I've learned. I've been trying to get more informed in all the products available to the horses, is that the destruction, in a sense, that the steroid can do to the horse's joints and ultimately career and their own safety. And the ProStride, Anne mentioned it, it's regenerative. I'm not getting that word right. So it's, I don't know, to me, it's been a true miracle. And since that date, I don't know that I've injected but one joint with a steroid since then. I'm not even sure if I have. And I breed as well. So I have it on the whole range, like you were saying, Kim, young, older, while working in performance, as well as ones that maybe do need to recover. So I have a lot of stories of nothing but success, quite honestly.
Thank you. And maybe we can go into some of those areas here shortly. So thank you for that, Maureen. And Casey, if you can kind of just speak to your experience, how you were introduced, how long you've been using it for your horses. And one thing that's nice, each of you offer different perspectives, either through horses you own, ride, train on, and so forth. So it's really nice to get a breadth of experiences here on this discussion. So Casey.
Yeah, like I said, I started out using it about 5 years ago with Dr. Rick Mitchell, and about that time we were just using it as more of a joint support, kind of like it's an alternative for steroid. And for me, that made me feel so much safer because I'm super worried about any kind of reaction or any problems that can arise with. I mean, Dr. Holland can contest to that. I'm like, well, what kind of reaction can they get of everything? I just want the safety of my horses. And so we started using it more as a just a therapy and in replace of steroids. And then one of my horses ended up coming down with a pretty serious injury. And that's when I started to learn more about the regenerative side and really what it can do for the body and how it can help promote healing and help them get better faster. And so we ended up doing a series once a month with the ProStride in that specific spot. And just the amount of time that helped cut off the rehab for that horse was significant. And at that point, that horse pretty much had no chance of getting back in the competition ring, and with the injury he had. And so it was amazing to see what that horse did after his injury, and he's still competing and doing really well. And so that really made me a believer of this product. And so like everyone said, it's really hard to do any other kind of therapy but the ProStride, and because you really see the amount of progress you make with it and how healthy your horses are. And so for that, like there's no question in my mind. It's really hard for me to want to do steroids ever. So to have ProStride on your side is a pretty big deal.
Thank you, Casey. Appreciate it. Carol, I don't know if you, Dr. Holland, if you want to add anything specific on kind of what's been shared, but welcome that opportunity too.
Oh, sure. And first off, thank you guys for all the nice things that you continue to say, because for me, it's just wonderful to work with each of you. And I might cry, but I'm just going to keep talking. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, though, because as a veterinarian, I've learned so much from your horses. And I kind of think you guys look to me for all the knowledge, but the horses have always given me knowledge, and they always make sure that I learn from each one of the cases. So, Anne, I learned from your horse because it was such an honor to come, work for you when I was there. And Casey, your faith in me with all of the, the stuff. And Kim, I mean, like every horse, I have to tell you guys, it's like, okay, we're doing ProStride. We've got to make this one better. And of course, Maureen, you gave me all the knowledge, because when we started with you, you were an adventure person. That's your lifestyle. And it's so cool because I know that's the way it is. And you taught me that a horse could go in 4 days or 2 days and still be successful and not injure it, because the product is so wonderful as far as knowing that it would not damage the horse's joints. And then the repeat injections has also taught me a lot of information too. So as a veterinarian, the group that we selected, or you guys are offering to give us your time today, and again, I'm just a veterinarian working for you guys, but the group has also taught me as a vet and taught the other vets in the world that use ProStride, how it is beneficial to the animals. And it's kind of unique because, like, we've used it in tendons, we've used it in ligaments, we've used it in all the joints that I can imagine. I don't think anybody here in this group has had an elbow, and other than that, I think we've done everything but elbows and tails. So those are the only joints I can imagine. But Kim, your point as a preventative, I know that's a big part of your healthcare, and that's been information that I provided to Mark and the Al Manor team, which they wanted to make sure that they gave that information out too. So I'm glad that you remembered to bring that up. as a preventative for the young horses, and you're so good because you'll say, make sure that it looks good and the horse is going well. So your horses trot around with a lot of pain relief just from doing that, whereas a lot of people only use it as a preventative, and not in this group. I mean, as a maintenance or a fixer, I guess is a better unprofessional word, but so I just thank you all for that. And that's really what I had to say, is learning the tendons, and I'll be glad to get specific information without regard to names or cases. But I can tell you that for the most part, we've had great success.
I was going to say one thing, if I can, following up from Dr. Holland. One of the things we do when we purchase a new horse, based on the pre-purchase report, if Carol identifies any weaknesses or an area of weakness, we will start using ProStride on that before we even start the horse in the training program. And then, I mean, every horse is different, and how long the ProStride works for them is different for every horse. That's what I'm finding anyway. Depends on the horse's health, their physical fitness level, what kind of workload you're asking them to do at any one particular time. We find during the WEF season, we can be injecting every 4 months. We make sure we inject in front of the season, and if need be, it'll be in the middle of the season. And then we're always looking at them at the end of the season to make sure that, you know, even when they're resting, they're most comfortable when they're resting. So yeah, that I just wanted to follow up with that.
And that's really helpful to hear that perspective, and especially, you know, going into the idea of a preventative maintenance, however you might want to suggest it. I think it's important to look at that perspective, because I think for all of you, there's cost associated, whether there's an injury and there's a direct response to trying to address that injury, or there's a preventative type of approach. So maybe speaking you with your veterinarian, obviously here, you know, how do you factor in the balance of costs versus the approach you take, and even what you choose to use for that care? And Maureen, thank you.
I'm sure all of you are very good record keepers with your horses, the professionals that you are, but I obviously, and I always weigh that cost that you're talking about, and it's a pretty easy math for me. A steroid injection can possibly do every 3 to 4 months, and maybe initial cost or one-time cost is not huge, but if you add up the number of treatments necessary to keep the horse performing, it's equal or could be more. And the way I look at it, the horse is actually, I'm doing a disservice in the long run to the horse. So cost, but to, again, back to my record keeping, I've gone 18 months with between hock injections, and again, my horses in this country, I'm in Wellington, obviously in the winter, so they're playing high-end polo, and they're very active, and you all know what a polo pony does, you know, between all the movements. And so I've gone 12 to 18 months easily with almost all the joints, and I've injected quite a number of different joints, including necks. And so cost-wise, I don't even think there's a comparison, quite honestly, with the long-term, the longevity of the actual injection itself, the longevity, I've said it before, of the horse's career. But I think if it's equal, if not a better economical value, quite honestly. Thanks
for that shared experience. Anyone else would like to add further comment?
Yeah, I have to agree. I think that it's definitely worth the price because of the longevity part of it, that it does last. And yet it's kind of funny, like this younger Grand Prix horse that I got, and we're developing, and so he keeps improving. And then on the other hand, okay, let's do a little more to make him even better, to help him be better, and all that's fun, because with Carol's work with the ProStride, and he was a good horse when I bought him, I loved him, but oh my God, he's just even a better horse. And I have another Grand Prix horse like that, actually, with another rider, and that's jumping, the World Cups and meter 60 things. And some people might not even do it. He's not limping, and the other riders like, no, he's fine. But I own him. He's my horse, and I love him. I think he could go to the Olympics. The horse doesn't love me. I wish I could be riding. But anyway, I have this wonderful Devin Bryant is the rider, but okay. And I don't. I'm a little older than Devin. I've been around, and I love my horse. But doing this maintenance to help them I really think he's an amazing horse. And with Dr. Holland's work, and then let's do whatever, this part or that part. And he just improves. I mean, he looks like he could jump a meter 80. I mean, it's such fun to see. And again, I mean, he's sounder, he's happier. The horse just looks amazing. Those kinds of things. So again, what it costs, it's way worth it. To see the way the horses change, or some of these lower, my students' horses, these adult jumpers, or the lower, they do lower things, but they have to, take care of their amateur riders or the kids. And when the horses are happy, they're good horses and things. But you do this, and again, knowing that you're helping, some of them are a little older, you're helping them to go longer. Oh my God, they're jumping clean. When the riders are missing, they're not stopping because the horses feel well. I mean, the horses really love what they do, but to see that and then again, that they're staying sounder longer. We have one mare that came from another farm before Dr. Holland had it, before it came to me. And they couldn't keep her sound, and she stopped. And really a good mare, had jumped big jumps, but now was with an amateur. And I have to say, she had been going and sound and loving it, and the girl looks great. And I know because she feels better. And they love the Pro Stride, and the horse loves the Pro Stride. And so all of that, it is so worth it for the rider, the horse, me, everybody. It's just a wonderful product. Really, it's worth every penny.
Thank you, Ann. Thank you, Ann. Any others? So we can, Casey, if you got any other thoughts, or we can move to another question.
I think to answer the other side of that, I think it's worth it because, especially the cost of it is the fact that it's safe for your horse, and every time you go into a joint, there can always be a problem, but it's safe. Other than steroids, and that's a big factor for me. It's a peace of mind, and so that's where I justify the cost for myself. But it's also fun when Dr. Holland comes out to look at the horses, and she looks in her record books to see the last time she did something, and she's like, "Oh, we haven't done that for almost a year and a half." And you're like, "Really? They feel so good." Like it's nice to know that. So that that the product lasts, and it helps your horse feel good and good for a while, not just for a quick fix. And because I'm not into quick fixes, I want them to really enjoy it. And so that's why the cost it comes into mind, but it's not a huge factor for my program, I would say.
Perfect, thank you. That's very helpful. Just kind of a follow-up on the prior discussions of different joints, injuries that you've used it for, but kind of speaking to what are the more common, and I can certainly appreciate it's tied to discipline, it's tied to different interests and uses, but what are the typical joints that you're most commonly using, say, Pro Stride for?
I would say for mine, it would be like coffin joints and hocks, I would say, if I can think of it on the top of my head.
Okay. Good, thank you.
Is that a question for everyone, or?
Yes, I would love just to hear it. Sorry, Maureen, yes.
Keep barging in. Well, I would say ankles and hocks, stifles a close third.
Okay.
Coffins. I mean, like I said, I've kind of used it everywhere. Had very successful navicular Pro Stride injection. I don't know if anyone else has done that, but Dr. Holland. That's thinking of your risk factor. That's a high risk to go into, or area to go into, and we had a huge success with that one. I mentioned neck, turnaround, 180, a horse doing a 180 improvement, doing necks. And yeah, so we do everything. I don't mean to be flippant here, but when we have an issue, Carol literally says, post-ride. Yes. It's so universal because I have done tendons. A quick story on a tendon horse. I had a horse get a tendon in March, late in the season here, but still some time to go, but she couldn't finish, injected her tendon. She played in the women's, that was regular mixed polo. She played the Women's Open in November in Houston. She did have that time off. So it was from March to playing the top women's tournament. That was not the season I got the best string, but we won the tournament again. And then I actually sold her to one of my high goal pros, and she played the 26 goal US Open that very next season. And it was a pretty good tendon, I have to say. So the fact that she came back that quickly and performed at that level, unreal to me. And I have done other tendons as well, and never to be repeated. The horse never got another tendon again. I'm talking about a different case. So it is so universal. I feel like there's nothing post-ride can't treat, quite honestly.
Thank you.
I have to mention one thing about what Maureen just said, if I can. But just so Maureen, to clarify about the tendons, you have to know that each one of these members on the panel also, they pick their cases immediately. These people are the customers here, or my customers and the trainers and all. They are very diligent about finding injuries quickly. So when Maureen talks about a tendon that we treated and it came back so quickly, it's because they noticed it immediately and we treated it immediately, and that was a huge benefit to the injuries. And that's a factor. People are out in the world are listening and they have chronic problems. I want them to make sure that they know it is beneficial, and but it's really good to pay attention to your horses and take care of them immediately, and that's a huge benefit to post-ride is in their longevity. As Maureen was on top of these tendons, and those horses just came back, which I'm still in shock when she would send me the videos, horses trotting sound, and I'm like, oh my gosh, but to come back and play high goal polo and stay sound, and I've never seen either one of those horses again for that tendon. So
great shared experience. Thank you. Anne, for you?
Yeah, like Maureen, I think we've used it on a lot of joints, a lot of horses. I guess coffins, hocks, stifles, but plenty of I think some ankles, and definitely a few necks that they've really, like Maureen said, I think any joint, it helps for sure. Again, getting on them as quickly as you can, no question. But as I say, some of these older ones that I've had in that have come in later in life, I say it's sort of, giving them a lube job, just making them feel better, all of that. But really, every joint I've used it in, that it's been helpful, no question. So yeah, it's really an amazing product. And I've said before, you got to make it for people also, because we're all athletes as well. Like, oh my God, I need that for myself.
Thank you, Anne. Appreciate that. And Kimberly, your thoughts on typical or most common use?
I would say every joint that everyone's already mentioned. I think we've done backs also. Carol, you could correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, one of the things we did when we had a recent tendon injury was we caught it quickly. We injected. Carol was back to ultrasound and didn't quite like what she was seeing with regards to how things were moving forward, and we injected again. So you always have that ability to overuse, and to Casey's point earlier, you can use it more without negative side effects. So everything is positive for your horses. We've used it anywhere where we see arthritis, and that's helped us a lot, predominantly in the neck area. So yeah.
Good. Thank you. I want to revisit something earlier, and you spoke on how you were introduced to the product, but I'm interested in how you researched it, because obviously you can hear about it and you can, and obviously talk to your veterinarian about it, but individually, how did you go about researching and finding out more information? And Anne, I'll start with you. I'm sorry.
Well, first, like I said, word of mouth, Maureen and Dr. Holland. And to me, experience really is the main thing, for sure. I love to get the experience. But then going online, for sure, looking online and reading about it. And there are other vets that I use as well. As I say, I've been in the business a long time and have good friends all over. I'm using Dr. Holland at the moment. But really did ask around about some other vets and it was kind of new. They were just trying it. And even at this ProStride thing that we went to, that you had an event, I guess you'd call it. And there were some other vets that went as well. So picking their brains for sure. I don't just jump in, but asking around. And but then from that, I guess, so word of mouth, experience, word of mouth. But yes, for sure, look it up online and things. But I've known Maureen for a very, very, very long time, and definitely trusted, hearing her stories and the Polo ponies. And so that was sort of my research, asking other vets that were using it. And yet with a lot of them, it was still quite new also. Some of them it was new. So.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Kimberly, if you would share, please.
Well, I have to say I'm not a great researcher, or I wasn't back then because I had 2 young children at the time too. I went along with Carol, and the proof was in what we saw, the results. So every time I used it on a horse, we saw the benefits, and it just built from there. And as I said, I mean, I've been using it since 2015. There probably wasn't a lot of research available at that point in time with regards to results and how horses were improving, because there was a great deal of time prior to that. So for us it was just trial and error, and I have quite a few horses and I use it on all of them. And as I said earlier, I use it different ways on different horses for different things. And it keeps coming through for me. So my attitude is, why change a good thing? Like we're just sticking to the program, and it's working. So.
Thank you. Maureen, if you could share, please.
Faith. Using it, faith. Dr. Holland had been my vet, as I mentioned before, for a while. So I sound like Kim, you're like living my life. I'm not a big researcher myself until I would have to say afterwards. Carol brought it up to my attention. She said, hey, what do you think about trying this? Yes. You believe in it. You think it can help. I will do it. And that's been my experience with Dr. Holland all along anyway. Talk about being humble here. Dr. Holland has probably seen the greatest variety of disciplines, horse situations, if that's what we want to call some of these events, breeds, you name it. And her thinking out of the box, I guess, and always, I mean, I could get a little teary myself, but the horse, the welfare of the horse is primary. And so this product we've all mentioned has, I have not found any negative effects whatsoever. So I just literally, Carol used the word adventure, I just said, yes, absolutely, I'm in. And my own anecdotal information, my feel on top of the horses convinced me this product absolutely works. It's the before and after, night and day. So yeah, it was Dr. Holland that brought it to me, and I'm very grateful for that. And I in turn tried to, again, spread the word, but I got more informed as it went. Mark, those events that you put on, really helpful. I have found, I've hosted them with you, I've attended them, very beneficial. Everyone that you bring to these meetings, the users and the developers, I have found to be a great resource. And because I'm not the biggest, like, want to sit down and read online, but having that direct contact with you and your team there at ProStride, our Manor, I think that's kind of quite honestly. I think those are a really good thing, and hope you continue to do those.
Thank you, Maureen. I appreciate your words. And Casey, if you would share.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a mix between all of you guys, and but I am a little bit different in the sense I'm a Google warrior. Like, I am always online. I will try to find the best articles. Dr. Holland can contest to this. I send her an article and I'm like, is this reputable? Is this something that I could like really soak in? And it's taken me a while to get there to really research things, but I always try to look, things that can improve my horses and in a healthy way. And that's what, again, why I love Dr. Holland is her way of thinking outside the box is like Maureen said, it's unreal. And some horses need that. And because there's things, that don't line up and she goes off of her feel and you just trust that. And so it started out with me trusting my vet at the time and really feeling out the product and seeing how well it worked. And then I was hooked, and then I started to kind of research a lot more and do my due diligence on it. And then just word of mouth talking, I ask questions. I'm kind of annoying that way. So I'm constantly talking to people and like Ann said, other vets and just really getting my knowledge and seeing if it's the right thing for my horses, and for sure ProStride is.
Thank you. Appreciate all of your comments and honesty and shared experiences there. As you think about the get back to work and whatever it is, if it's polo, if it's dressage, hunting, jumping, what's been the typical through your veterinarian's recommendation, but what have you typically seen as your get back to work approach post ProStride, for example? Casey, we'll start with you this time.
Okay. I would say it kind of varies. I would say maybe like if we do like a SI, and Dr. Holland, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they always move after. There's no sitting in the stall. Like unless there's an injury. So it's case by case, but I know Dr. Holland's always required me to keep them moving, whether it's a hand walk, tack walk, little turnout or something along those lines. But then we're trotting the next day and then building up the work from there. And again, it varies per case. But I've always kept my horses moving to prevent them from getting stiff or secondary soreness or anything like that. And it's worked out really well.
Excellent. Thank you. Maureen, please.
I think sort of the mantra is, as the return to work goes, was light, medium, normal. That's been my steps normally. And I'm always concerned about a horse going high performance, high activity, high workload into
Nothing.
So the fact that this product, it is important actually that you keep moving to have the product move around the joint area and help, basically heal and bathe the whole area, is really important for that whole movement, their gastric system, everything. And I'll admit, Carol kind of alluded to it before, I've gone to games within 2 days, and it was a desperate situation. My best horses, I needed him. It's a gelding, mind you, and they're like all mares, and I needed him. So I was back on the field within 2 days in one case, no downside, horse was great. I'm not pushing this, recommending it, but that has been my quickest turnaround. But otherwise, I do follow Carol's instructions. But it's a huge benefit to ProStride is the no downtime essentially. That's my.
Thank you. I think Kimberly might have some pros, and Anne, we'll move to you for a moment, and then we can go back to Kimberly.
Same thing. I love that you can ride them the day after tack walk, depending if there's an injury or not. It depends on your situation, but not that downtime. Get going, and again, depending on the horses, sometimes within a week they can be back in the show ring, depending on what they're doing, what level they're jumping at, or so that part is amazing. It really is, and you tell, like Maureen had said earlier, how the horses feel, really. And I ride most of them, even some of the amateur horses and things. I get on, train them, and see how they feel, and that is probably the biggest telltale part of all of it, is when I get on and say, wow, he really does feel better. I could say it's because I'm riding him better and I've trained him harder or stronger. No, the horse just feels better. But getting into the ring, getting back to competition, it can be pretty darn quick. I probably haven't done it quite as quick as Maureen, but it's amazing like that, how they feel. And yet in long term, you then another week or two goes by, they even feel better. They can even, they do even improve over time. So it really is kind of miraculous.
Thank you. And we may join us momentarily, but we'll just continue on accordingly. I think everybody's got maybe one special story, maybe more, hopefully more, but I'd like to maybe have you share that particular story that you've had with an injury or a situation where couldn't get the horse sound, that you particularly took note of. And maybe Anne, we'll start with you on that one.
A couple. One of the hunters originally one of Hoffy's hunters, my partner's hunters originally, that again, a little, maybe before Carol was just getting on board and to kind of figure out even where it was lame and why, and then using the ProStride and repeated the injections. That was a pretty interesting one, because I also wasn't sure how it would come around. But there is another one right now that Carol, the black horse with the soft, there's this one that last year, and a young horse, and he was just out. We just rode him just a few minutes before this webinar, and he looks amazing, knock on wood. But a soft tissue, and Carol, you could even tell kind of more of the detail about it, but it had this weird soft tissue injury. It was in the stall. We don't even really know how the horse got it. And at one point, it was like he was finished. His career was finished. He wasn't even going to be able to come back. And thank God for Dr. Holland being there, because he went to a clinic, but there was really this moment of, he's going to be a pasture ornament. And Dr. Holland was like, no, I really think this ProStride, if we do this and that, and we took him to Florida and we nursed him along. He's still not jumping. Well, no, actually he's jumped some little jumps now, but he was really one that I thought was a goner. And I mean, honestly, and a big, pretty hunter, beautiful mover. And with Dr. Holland, I mean, you could talk a little bit to it, Dr. Holland. I mean, it was just amazing. And these other vets at this other clinic were like, he's never even going to make it back. I mean, it's really awful. And Dr. Holland, not saying, as Maureen said, faith. I had faith in, okay, Dr. Holland, work your magic. And he's sound and jumping little jumps. So I don't know, Carol, you want to talk to that?
It was a very strange subcutaneous skin infection that turned into septicemia in the joint infection. That, again, it was just prayer and ProStride. And he was only option was surgery from one clinic. And I said, well, let's just try ProStride, because Anne and Hoppy did not want to go to surgery. And so I said, well, let's see what ProStride can do. So we did that, and we've done it multiple times over the winter, and maybe 3 times since November and since then. And again, he had no chance of, according to 2 well, one surgeon was optimistic and another surgeon was like, no, it's in the joint. He's done. And I know, I couldn't believe the video you sent me. So again, it was just faith. And I think it's probably because the ProStride product does reduce the inflammation, and we don't know actually why, but we treated in the face of an infection in that particular case. And that is a really great case to bring up. And thanks for reminding me. But he did have an infection, and we treated with an infection in his joint, and he did a miraculous. I mean, it took a lot of time, and we did work and laser therapy and shockwave therapy and repeated injections. But to see that horse come back is, I'm sure, going to be shocking to other veterinarians.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah,
which is a great miracle for him, because I know how much you love him.
Yeah, when these other clinics were really, the one absolutely no, he's not going to make it, and the other one was maybe, good luck, sort of, maybe. And Dr. Holland, I love that prayer and ProStride. Yeah, it's worked, so very exciting.
That's great. Thank you both. Hi, Kimberly. We see you're back. All right. Maureen, why don't we continue the question around any particular special story or unique experience beyond the ones you shared that are great, but anyone that stands out in your mind?
Well, I already mentioned those two tendon horses that ended up playing high goal with high goal players not long after their situation, but there's one in particular that with you, Anne, about this sort of miracle. I bought a twofer. I got a younger horse, and what you guys might say a horse with a lot of miles, we would say a lot of chuckers. And she was a very famous horse, actually. They were both owned by a high goal player. And, the whole attitude was, we can fix her. She was three-legged. It was a stifle. Came out of the stall every day, three-legged. I mean, air, three-legged. And it's like, oh, I mean, this poor thing, first of all, but yeah, I'm gonna buy her, and we're gonna inject her with ProStride. Well, she became four-legged. Nearly immediately after, I played her for multiple years, and she then did step down at one point from high goal polo, but to summer polo, and amazing. She got very round, and she's a super black mare, but she was like, just everything about her. And you mentioned earlier, they're just better. They feel better. But I just couldn't believe that leg hanging every day. And eventually she just stepped out of her stall like any other horse. So to me, that is nearly impossible. And it was ProStride. And I don't think she had more than one injection, to tell you the truth. Carol, I don't know if you remember, but I don't know that we did her.
I think she ended up one year and one another.
Yeah, but for again, all those chuckers and all those years, yeah.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Awesome.
Very good personal story on that, Maureen. Casey, we'll go to yours. One particular story, or if you have more, feel free, but one that stands out.
Sure, I actually have two. Like I said earlier, I had a horse who ended up having a pretty big injury, a bone bruise, and he was going back and forth if he had a fracture or fragment or something in there that he might need surgery, and so we ended up doing ProStride once a month for I think 4 or 5 months, and starting out as more of a treatment for it, and then ended up just being a therapy after that to maintain it. And along with some shockwave and other therapies, he ended up coming back and competing. And that was kind of a shocker for a lot of my team. And another story is a mare that I have that Dr. Holland has been working with me. She came to me with a little bit of, developed some feet issues. And we ended up going in and treating her coffin joints. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Holland, but she ended up having pretty bad coffin joint fluid, which kind of, what does that show for you, Dr. Holland? It's more of like not a damaged joint, but a not so good joint.
Severe inflammation. Yeah,
Do what?
severe inflammation.
Yeah. So
Severe inflammation. Yeah.
we ended up doing, again, multiple treatments, I think at least 2 or 3 once a month. She's sound. She wasn't sound before, and she's sound now, and training and training up the levels and about to compete. And so she was not sound for 2 years, and we just bought her. And so we were like, what are we gonna do? So it was pretty amazing. And we haven't done our coffin joints, I think, for 6 months or a year. Has it been around there?
I think the last was, yeah.
Yeah. So
August or July of last summer.
And she's been very, very sound in front. So knock on wood. But it's made a big difference for all of my horses. Not all of them to that extent where they need it multiple times, but that is part of the treatment that we've done.
Excellent. Thank you. And Kimberly, I think you're back with us.
I'm sorry, technical difficulty. Sorry.
Thank you. Glad you're back. We were basically sharing experiences, one particular that stands out, and appreciating your history and a number of horses that you've had ProStride used with, but wanted to get a sense of, or if there was one particular story that stood out in your mind more than others.
Okay. I'd have to say probably the most expensive horse we ever purchased. Carol was trying to talk us out of it. Horse had a stiff neck, arthritis, and she was young. I think she was 8. But we thought she had a great potential, but there was this neck issue, and it's difficult to jump when you have a stiff neck. So we purchased her, I would say 2.5 years ago. And we started injecting her neck immediately, and stayed on top of that. And now she is like a totally different horse. We were originally thinking, we would not try and build her neck up too much. We try and be as easy on that side of it as possible. But her neck is well muscled now, and she can round. She could hardly round when we got her. So I would say that's a good success story for us. We took a chance. We used the product. We took a chance on the mare. We used the product, and she's coming along beautifully. For the rest of my horses, I can't tell you any particular success story, apart from the fact that anytime we've had any issue or we've seen something, I would just say you have to act. The faster you act with it, the less expensive it'll be for you in the long run, and the faster you'll get your horse back to in good working condition. And that's basically been my experience right the way through with them.
Great summary and history. Thank you. The one last thing that I'd kind of like for all of you to share is, you think about your peers and fellow competitors and fellow riders and owners. What's one thing you would say from a takeaway on your experience with ProStride that you might offer? And Kimberly, we'll go ahead and start with you.
Oh dear. One thing I would take away. I've said so much. I apologize for
That's okay.
for what. But again, I followed with use it as soon as you have an issue. Use it as a preventative. Yes, as maintenance too. If you can. I know for some people it might seem like a really expensive product, but in the long run, it really isn't. And one thing I forgot to mention earlier was, one of the things that I have been trying to do is educate the insurance companies, because when I use the product, I tell them why I'm using it. And a lot of the time you'll put maintenance and they sort of they will make note of where you're maintaining. And they're getting very, very specific about asking you why you're using it, where you're using it. So for most of the time, I will give them information and I will tell them I am using this as a preventative product. And slowly, slowly, they're starting to understand that no, the next time I take out my insurance policy, they don't exclude that joint because it's being, preventatively maintained. But I just wanted to include that just for everyone's guide. Okay.
Thank you. And Casey, who would share your one takeaway? And I appreciate all of you have shared so much, but just kind of a succinct wrap up consideration.
I would say I would tell them it's worth a try. I mean, try it, and then you will see the difference, and you'll feel the difference, and there's no harm in it to try it, and that it's a way to do something healthy for your horse and make them happy and comfortable, and so they can do the jobs that we're asking them to do, and in a positive way.
Excellent. Thank you. Maureen?
I was hoping you weren't going to ask me next. I was still working on my answer. One takeaway. I'm trying to think of what I kept saying to Anne. Just try it. Just try it. It will make them better. When you're at that point, scratching the head and can't get these horses sound for, just don't know. I mean, it is the product to use for the horses back to work and longevity and ease of use. By the way, this is all happening right in the barn in a 20-minute, 25-minute window. I don't think any of us have mentioned that before, but the ease of use. And really, if you love your horse, try it.
Thank you. And Anne, if you would share yours, please.
Yeah, what everybody else said, but really the same. You're improving your horse's joints. You're improving your horses, not only whether they've had an injury or anything like that, but you're really improving. It's a wonderful thing that you can do for them, and the ease of use, all the things that everybody just said. If you love your horses, give it a try, and you'll see the results, and that it is definitely worth it because it lasts a long time. It only makes them better, unlike steroids.
Thank you. Dr. Holland, if you have any closing comments or thoughts?
No, I'm just grateful that you guys have provided ProStride for these wonderful clients, and I'm grateful that the clients are so trustful and willing to accept it and continue, and even that the horses are getting the great benefits. So, it's obviously we all are in a love fest here for ProStride, and it's just wonderful product, but it's well deserved. So well deserved and it just makes my veterinary job easier. I walk away from the barn knowing that I don't have to worry the next day they're going to call me with a fever or a joint flare, and I'm happy. I don't even think about it the next day, and everybody's still concerned in the world because probably each client here has had that happen at some point, and so they still are concerned. But I don't want to jinx anything because in the horse world we always are superstitious a bit, but so far I can walk away, and for being a veterinarian with the high quality horses that each one of these customers have is amazing. So thanks a lot for having that for us.
Thank you. Well, that concludes our panel discussion. Personal note of thanks to each of you for your willingness to take part in this, taking time out of your busy schedules and really sharing your experiences with ProStride. And I think most important, thank you for the level of commitment that you have for the care of your horses. So huge thank you. I wish you all continued best. And again, thank you for your time today.